You ever get talents? I hope so too. I'm just waiting. Like I've had no indication one way or another. I'm just hoping for it, really. So okay, so this original thread, what do you think of the updates to professions, and then okay, so something gold will have its pace. You still want to buy reagents or make orders for high-end crafting gear, for instance, but it should not be a gate to your ability to dive in to and have lots of success with your chosen professions. I'm gonna look for that, Ploinks. Like I didn't quite catch the whole thing on needing cross profession things. Maybe we'll find it, or maybe it's in some other thread, which would piss me off. It's absolutely the case that we plan on having crafted gear be able to compete with top-end gear from other sources, and in some cases even be best in slot. One of the most important goals in the work order system is enabling crafted gear to be much more relevant to the game across all activities. Just remember, in order to have that powerful gear crafted for yourself, you'll need to go out and earn special soulbound reagents. I'm going to call it Valor. They haven't named it yet, I don't think. I'm just going to call it Valor for the sake of... I mean, it's going to sound confusing anyway, but I'm just going to call it Valor, sorry. To provide the crafter in order to have that item that you've had your eye on crafted. Is it possible to speak about the anticipated grindiness of this? Gladly. I don't want to go into a lot of detail on the plan system for Dragonflight yet, but the intent is that this is not generally grindy when aiming to earn gear appropriate to your activity. I was having a brief exchange with someone on Twitter over this because they weren't sure, because they were like, oh man, I have to raid in order to craft the best gear, which is not true. So let's double check this. That is, this is the important line. If you're a normal raider, for instance, your normal raid provides enough valor to allow you to craft a limited amount of normal raid item level gear without needing to go do a bunch of other stuff. But if, say, you wanted to craft heroic raid tier as a normal raider, you could choose to go do other activities, such as Mythic Plus, PvP, or challenging outdoor activities to supplement the reagents required and get better gear sooner. Underline, sooner. So what we're going to... let me finish, and then we'll circle back. In general, we'd like crafted gear to feel like something you are earning at a satisfying rate alongside your other gear sources. Say you had bad luck and got no drops while raiding. You'll still be making progress towards some high-end crafted gear until you just can't get legs to drop for you. You may choose to have legs crafted to fill that in that particular slot with a larger upgrade. For some crafted gear, you might also need to seek out a special rare drop off a certain mob in the world, a dungeon, or a raid as well. Earning crafted gear should feel like a bonus, an adventure, a social experience. So this line here kind of contradicts this here, but let's kind of talk about this. So from the sounds of it, for the most part, the intention is that if you want to have gear, you're going to farm a single... largely you're going to farm like a single reagent, such as Valor. The harder content you do, the more you get. The easier content you do, I guess the less that you get. My guess is that the way Valor or this reagent is going to drop is going to feel kind of like Stygian Embers. So like if you do a mythic raid and you clear it, then you're going to get all the reagents from the mythic version, the heroic, the normal, and the raid finder version. You're going to get all that stuff. That entire pool, you get all of it. And then you can, do stuff with it. If you just do normal, then you just get the normal and the raid finder amounts of those reagents. So it's kind of like that. Kind of ties into how they mentioned specialization. Well, I think that's different, Woods, because that's on the crafting side. I'm talking about the client side. These soulbound reagents that you're going to have to farm for. But then this line here is important too. That for some crafted gear, you might also need to seek a special rare off of a dungeon or a raid. Now, the thing to ask here is what difficulty of the dungeon or a raid does it need to be? And also, does some does that imply best in slot, or does it imply something like, oh, if you want a certain color tint, you need to get a certain thing? I don't know. It could be anything. Hi, Menard. So I guess I could kind of walk back what I said to that other person. Maybe there is going to be something that does require... there is going to be something that requires group content. Does it have to do with item level? That remains to be seen. I'm going to assume yes, though, because that's what it usually is, but I'm kind of leaving that door open because who knows? It might be something a little bit different. However, this is my bigger takeaway, that for the most part, you don't need to run group content in order to eventually make really cool stuff, make really good stuff. For all I know, it might not let you. For all we know, if they decide, hey, you know what, maybe Mythic won't be accessible for people that just do world content, and maybe that's okay, because here's what happens. Here's what kind of happens with that. If they gave that sort of path, and that path took way too long, like oh, I'll be able to make like 3 Mythic pieces at most, and the rest of my gear is shit. I don't think that would feel very good, because you have these 3 Mythic pieces, but then that's it. Everything else you have is just like reputation stuff. I'm speaking from a very strict solo, I don't do any group content at all sort of perspective. On the other hand, if world content players didn't have any hope at all of getting Mythic level stuff, you can only get that stuff from like group content or whatever, but they could still make heroic stuff, and they're able to complete that set, would that be better or worse? And I believe that to be subjective. That's something that the team will have to decide, whether or not that's going to be like a great thing. Because there are some folks that are going to be like their player behavior is going to be like, oh, well, if I'm going to go for Mythic, I'm going to go straight for that and screw everything else. And then there are other questions to ask, such as, okay, well, what if I want to scrap this gear? Do I get that Valor stuff back? Or do I need to be careful what my investments are? I don't know if that question has been asked yet. Can you scrap that stuff and get your stuff back? And I'm not sure, because if you could scrap that stuff, doesn't that technically mean that I could potentially buy someone else's crafted gear, scrap that, and get those reagents, those soulbound reagents? I don't know. But should it be a thing? There's still a lot that we don't know. I'm still cool with the premise of this, but there are like those finer details that can not exactly compromise it, but then it'll alter the scope and kind of give a different feel. If it was me, I'd probably take a closer look at how the recrafting thing works, because of course I want all the mugs. So I think we'll get to recrafting. I'm not gonna. I remember most of it, but I'll just kind of go through it. So they want to address: is there any consideration being given to these items being legitimately hard to obtain on small servers because not everything gets created by a character? I think the work order system sounds great, but given what I've experienced with legendaries and Shadowlands, it's a concern. We definitely have world PvP in mind with our crafting plans, both with interesting recipes and with regards to gathering reagents, but nothing we're ready to talk about. One thing that they wanted to talk about that we haven't mentioned yet is the concept of recrafting. Here we go. It's still in the works, so it's likely to change some, but the basic idea is as follows. Recrafting will allow you to take any piece of Dragonflight crafted gear and bring it back to the crafting screen as a crafter. You can then spend a special reagent plus a small subset of the original reagents from the recipe to, quote, recraft the item. During this process, you can completely change out optional reagents if you want. The new quality of the item will be determined based on the new setup of reagents plus your current skill. That means you can have an item crafted at low quality and then later recraft it when you're a higher skill to a higher quality. For non-crafters, we're planning to support recrafting orders as well. In this case, you can send your item to get recrafted to have its optional reagents changed out, or to potentially have its quality increased. I think there's more clarifying stuff a little bit afterwards here. Any plans for older craft? Oh, I didn't notice this one. For older crafted items, to just be usable. Okay, never mind that. And then quick fire here. Will the missive system be coming back or editing secondary stats? We definitely think it's valuable to be able to adjust stats on some crafted gear. Customization is one of the coolest aspects of crafting. As far as recrafting, changing those stats, the intent would be something like this, would be to continue to be done through optional reagents. So in a case like that, yes, you could use recrafting to swap out those optional reagents and thus change the secondary stats. Recrafting is basically just valid upgrades. Actually, it's not. We're gonna get to that. The recrafting system is described as is very specific to crafted gear only. Okay, here we go. The recrafting system shouldn't be thought of as an upgrade system. It is just a way to take something that has been crafted in the past and recraft it with changed optional reagents and possibly a different quality, which is not the same as upgrading. I want to drive that home. It's not the same thing. So to give a more concrete example, using your numbers, a crafted recipe might make a helmet between item level 325 and 335 depending on quality. So think of the 325 as regular and the 335 as like Warforged, Craft Forged, or Warcrafted, whatever, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It could require 100 dragon scales as its main reagent to make this certain helmet. A skilled crafter might be able to make it straight up at quality 5, item level 335, while a new crafter might only make it at quality 1, or item level 325. In both cases, the reagent cost is the same. Now, say you got your piece crafted by that unskilled crafter at quality 1 at 325. Maybe he's a friend and says, hey, I've been working on my blacksmithing, I got my skill up, and I can now make that piece at quality 5. Send it back to me through a crafting reorder, and I'll hook you up. And so your friend recrafts your helm using the old helmet, 20 of the base reagents, and one of the special reagents that he earned to recraft it. The result is now the maximum quality it's now Warforged, or whatever the fuck it is. So it's not exactly, hey, I want to bump this up from from normal quality to heroic. That's not how it's working. It's like again, it's more Warforged. It's a maximum thing. So earlier I had like this whole vision of, oh dude, am I going to be able to take like a piece of gear that I crafted in 10.0 and then keep that piece of gear all the way to the end of the expansion, you know, by recrafting and upgrading and stuff like that? And that does not seem to be the case. So what I mean by it not being an upgrade is that you're not going to be able to hold on to it for any longer than 10 item level, basically. So if you want to break past that 335 item level, then you're going to need to go to you're gonna be crafting like a completely different item. That's gonna be like, you know, 343 or something like that. But then the item level range on that is going to range from 343 to 353. Something like that. So, hi Betty. Who is going to do a work order for less quality for the same cost? Same reagent cost is not good. The difference there, I think, is that if an unskilled crafter, you know, like everybody at the start, if everyone's only able to make it at like a low level quality, then they're only able to make it at a low level quality. If someone can make it like straight, for if they can take it straight to 5, great, then they win the game. They would have a kind of competitive advantage because they'll be able to, one, make it at a quality level of 5, but also they'll be able to be like, hey guys, I can take all your cheap low level stuff and I'll be able to like make it better because I at the moment am the best fucking crafter ever. Here's the other thing though. This whole quality thing, that's probably going to depend on your specializations and your talent tree. So if I am able to make the best helmets, I'm probably not going to be able to make the best breastplates or legs or bracers or whatever. Someone else is going to be able to do that. So yeah, you're right in that, hey, I'm not going to be able to make like this good stuff, but I'll be able to make something. It's just that someone is going to be able to make it better than I can. And so what someone might be able to do is, take the thing that they got from me at the time and have someone else recraft it for relatively cheap. So, is there any reason to not just designate a single person within the guild to craft everything so they can make better stuff? The reason would be that not everyone is going to be able to immediately make everything, because they haven't gotten too much into like specializations and spec points or whatever in the talent tree and how all that's going to work. But my guess is that it's going to take time for everyone to learn how to make everything at the best quality. The interview with Ian Hazakostas and Hazel, that kind of alluded to that, where at first you're only going to be able to specialize. By the end of the expansion, though, presumably because you're steadily gaining these different spec points and whatever, you're going to eventually be great at crafting everything. Or there will be those people that are great at crafting everything. And that's, so that's going to be the reason for a guild to maybe have to kind of coordinate. Okay, you do helmets, I'll do legs, you do chest, you do shoulders, blah, blah, blah. And you do weapons. So you're going to have those people that are going to want to try to plan things out, as opposed to just kind of like going half-assed and like, oh, so what? So no one went deep into a certain thing. Oh, okay, shit. I really think it's going to take a full ranger to get to max in one area. It could. I have a feeling. Yeah, I mean, I do have a feeling that it's going to take. That it's going to definitely take time to get more than a couple of things to max, but I think it's going to be like at least 2 or 3 that you'll be able to kind of max out. The question too, though, is going to be, what about later tiers, later seasons? How is that going to be handled? Not sure. If it's slow, I won't mind it. If it's fast, then it's gonna feel like a race, and I wouldn't be very fond of that. So I wouldn't mind if there were going to be pretty, fairly few people that are going to be able to max this stuff out. And the cool thing, again, going back to like Shadowlands and how that worked, I'm glad that it's going to be something like spec points that are probably going to be tightly controlled. It's probably not going to be like, oh, if you have more gold or if you just, no life it, you'll be able to like finish before everyone else. I doubt it's going to be like that. It's probably going to feel kind of like Valor or Conquest or whatever, where there's going to be like limited sources of getting these specializations and being able to go down those trees. So that way it's, it's a little bit more of an even playing field. Just a little bit. What's up, Rez? Oh, and Rock, nah, not quite. Not quite, dude. I'll play it when it comes out, but I don't know how serious I'm going to be with it. I wonder how alchemy is going to be in Dragonflight. No idea. I think they only talked about potions having like some, like, they mentioned higher quality, but I'm thinking quantity is like the easier way to go. As for quality, that would be kind of weird. Having a longer invisibility potion might be kind of cool. A slightly stronger health potion. And I would say, like, if there's like a high quality health potion, it's not going to be like double the healing, but it might be like 15% more healing. Something significant enough to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I put time into this, but not so little that it would be like meaningless. I like how a lot of these ideas. I like these ideas, but I don't know how it's going to actually play out on the mega servers. I mean, if there are lots of crafters, there's lots of clients. So I think the thought you teased at the beginning is right. Professions are probably closer to a replacement to covenants than. Oh yeah, absolutely. To me, dragon writing is pretty low. That has me pretty low on the excitement level, because it's just, traversing world content. I'm sure it's going to be fun. It's going to, I'm sure it'll feel cool and all that stuff, but that feels more gimmicky than anything. I'm not, it's not as extensive as like, hey, the actual gameplay of things and role play. It's still cool, just, not very high. Anyway, let's see if there's other stuff here. Has it been clarified yet how one will become more adept at crafting? Something about a quest line or other activities ringing a bell. Apologies if this has already been answered. Excellent question. This is something we'll definitely be heavily testing for feel, but here are some of the ways that we imagine you can grow adept at crafting. First, permanent forms of improvement and progression. While one is improving your overall profession skill. We're familiar with that. If you max out your blacksmithing skill, for instance, you will craft everything better than if you are only halfway leveled for your profession. Leveling up and skilling up in your profession will mechanically work the same as it always has. That kind of makes me think. It's like, okay, if we start learning profession like blacksmithing in Dragonflight, I'll get like a round of different crafts that I can make, but it's going to be at a quality of 1. By the time I get my skill level maxed, though, then maybe the quality of that gear will be at 5. So it's going to be like a little bit better. Maybe. And then there's getting better gear for your profession through higher skill and or profession stats on the gear. Then specialization in your profession. This is the largest source of improvement. The more you specialize in ways that help a given recipe, the larger bonus skill you will get towards that recipe, and thus the higher quality you'll be able to make it. There's a lot to this the system that we'll discuss later. There are lots of ways to earn spec points, and doing so will be necessary to excel in your profession. Some of these sources can only be done once, while others will be repeatable. Some one-time sources for spec points are likely going to be making recipes for the first time, certain discoveries in the world, like an old book and blah blah blah, special quests, which I think is great, completing certain profession achievements such as crafting your first max quality item. So that makes a lot of sense to me in terms of one-time points. Hey Pony. Yay! Oh Pony, hey, thank you, dude. Hey, you've been a baller, dude. You're still a baller. You have gifted 437 subs. Holy shit. That's money, buddy. That's amazing, dude. I'm super grateful to you, dude. That dude's fucking MVP, man. Where was I? So, yeah, one-time sources for profession spec points. Some repeatable sources, and this is gonna be critical too. Some repeatable sources for spec points are likely to be helping various factions and NPCs in the world through quests, dailies, finding treasures out in the world, and fulfilling crafting orders for others. Yeah, this will be interesting, and potentially super toxic, because what if I'm like, hey dude, can you set up a crafting order for me? It'll be like this weird form of profession masturbation, where you'll set up your own craft and fulfill it. So I think right here, this is them just talking, But I think in practice, they're going to be like, here's what's going to happen. I don't think that's going to work out. But these are ideas, I think, that they're just kind of throwing out there. I could see these kind of coming in the form of like a daily, so it can have a better context. So it'll definitely inform you. Hey, you did stuff. You're gonna get some specialization points for like whatever. Finding treasures out in the world, that's a little bit odd. I want to tell myself that, dude, the easiest way is to just do like a daily quest or, small series of quests, things like that. But I have a feeling that it should cap out. There should, I would hate to have someone be like so hardcore that they are like so demonstrably ahead of everyone else, and then they're like done. So I'm a little on that. I think it's telling that they had more professions, UI transmog finish for the reveal than Dragon UI, etc. Well, they haven't really showed us much. They only showed us like a couple of screenshots, and that was it. Just finished your last final. You're graduated in 10. Hey, grats, dude. Yay! Congratulations to you, dude. So, junior high, off you go, dude. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing. Ways to become more adept and have a better outcome each time you craft will include using higher quality reagents in your recipe. So it kind of has that Final Fantasy 14 vibe where I think they took high quality reagents out, if I recall correctly, and I'm not. But it might be, as opposed to higher quality reagents, they might just have multiple kinds of reagents, which are basically like the rank 2s of materials, and then you can choose. If I recall from the UI, you can choose if you want to use different reagents, if you feel like it. And Squawk, oh man, I'm gonna kill myself here. I was kind of doing a pretty heavy workout this morning. Okay, it wasn't a heavy workout, but like D and I walked around for a little bit, and we're trying to be better about wellness and health and not having delicious, scrumptious, freshly baked donuts. And I did a lot of squats already, so I'm really like killing myself right now. I think I did more than 10. Whatever. Ooh. Okay. So reagents, whatever. And then there's using a new type of consumable reagent that we're calling finishing reagents. These reagents give you bonuses while crafting the recipe, and some of them can directly improve your skill and thus quality when used. For example, might be a blacksmith using a special quenching oil, or a jewel crafter using a special polishing cloth while cutting gems. I wonder if this is what someone had meant when they said, "Oh, maybe you'll use like a cross profession sort of thing," but it might just be like a it might just be a vendor item for all I know. What if you get better outcomes if you do squats in between crafting? That's what you meant. Some crafting stats can improve the resulting quality crafted. One of these is inspiration. The more inspiration you have, the better chance to be inspired while crafting, gaining some bonus skill to be applied to the outcome. Basically a crafting crit. While we want the system to be largely about long-term progression and opt-in bonuses, inspiration provides a form of opt-in randomness. If you choose to specialize or gear towards inspiration, you may be able to craft something at a higher quality than your current level progression would otherwise allow when you become inspired. The idea is this adds some additional excitement to the crafting process through variable outcomes, but that it is never required to be able to craft things at the highest level of quality. So, inspiration is you know, like what it says here, crafting crits. However, though it only really applies until you reach that necessary base skill level, when you can make it at the highest level of quality anyway. So eventually, inspiration becomes useless, which makes me kind of like, if it, I guess it's a way to try and gain a sort of competitive advantage early on by luck, right? But eventually, as a season progresses, your skill level will be fine, and that'll be kind of it, you know. And then everyone will be able to, most everyone who dedicates themselves to it will be able to make the max quality thing without requiring inspiration. I'm a little mixed on that. Having a stat that eventually becomes useless passively, I'm not sure. I really wish they would tie in old maps for newer content, make the old content relevant again. I've seen other games do it. Old maps might change the look a bit for transmog, maybe. I'm kind of mixed on that. It's like, hey, what's up, dude? You need to, you know, I want to make this, you know, I want to make this chest plate or whatever, and it's comprised of different materials, and these materials or whatnot are found in the old world. And I'm trying to ask myself, like, what is that cool or is that a nuisance? Because to say that old world materials are not relevant, at least on my realm, is misleading. Well, okay, that's when it comes to herbs. Herbs are, I have definitely ruined the price of herbs. Okay, I haven't ruined them, but I've definitely created a price floor because I buy them all up, and people are like, "Oh, it's worth money." Okay, because I keep buying them. Because all of them are useful to me, except for Warlords herbs. Warlords herbs are just stupid. So yeah, I'm mixed on that, like, because I wouldn't want to have recipes or crafts that, you know, over time, over many expansions, I need to like gather shit from all over the place to get it, unless it's like a very just like a one-time super rare thing that, I don't know, like I'm mixed on that. Like I said, I asked myself, is it epic or is it a nuisance? And I'm not sure. Anyway, moving on. Optional reagents in order to make your crafts better. Using most optional reagents will actually increase the difficulty of a recipe and thus require a higher skill to craft it at high quality. Conversely, if you use an optional reagent that, for instance, lowers the item level of the item you're crafting, it'll actually lower the difficulty of the recipe and make it easier to craft at high quality. So that's kind of like twinking. So if I want to make like a lower thing, it'll pretty much guarantee that it'll be like the best version of that thing, because if it's a lower item level recipe, the requirements to make it at max quality should be lower. So that makes sense to me. Old mats could be optional reagents like gold or silver to change its appearance. Oh, like color tones and stuff. That would sound cool. Okay, yeah, I'll walk that back. That sounds kind of cool. All right, what else did he say? More clarifications. Okay. What kinds of sources can we expect for profession gear? Do they drop from the same kind of sources as you would otherwise improve your profession? Can you craft them? Do they drop from dungeons? And yada yada yada. Sorry, a bit vague here. Since it's not all designed yet, you will certainly be able to craft gear with lots of cross profession. Okay, so here's the part that I probably missed. Blacksmiths crafting mining picks and needles for tailoring. Okay. So blacksmiths will make a mining pick for miners. And a okay, so this seems to have to do with profession gear. Okay, we're excited for this kind of cross-profession interaction, particularly because it means someone could choose to be more of a supporter with their profession, specializing in crafting gear for various professions, reagents. Okay, so yeah, here's something that this is what that podcast was talking about. So crafters will be able to make gear. So this part definitely does have a Final Fantasy XIV vibe to it. Make the thing so you can support like the other classes, so make it so they can make things better. They will make things better for you in exchange. The way the Final Fantasy XIV crafting meta worked out, in hindsight, I wasn't fond of it, because if you are largely solo, you are definitely compelled to just level up every crafting profession, because you needed to make the gear for yourself. You needed to, and that was mostly it. You needed to make the gear for yourself so you can hit those stats. This is what Dragonflight is going to do. It's definitely a lighter version of it. And when I mean lighter, it's mostly because from the sounds of it, and maybe it hasn't been stated yet, you can't fail at crafting stuff in WoW. That has never been a thing. You know, you can just make it. It's just a matter of, can you make it good? Which is almost the same thing, right? Because some people are like, well, I only want like the max quality thing, or it's literally garbage, which I get. But that's why I like the whole recrafting thing too. It's like, well, I'll settle for this now because it's cheap, but then I'll recraft it later when my skill level goes up. That's kind of neat. Well, you gain these stats passively alongside your gear. I thought it was okay. If you choose to specialize, well, okay. Actually, let me go back to this again. This line here tells me that you can, there are going to be many different specializations that we can work towards, such as, hey, I want to make the best helmet, I want to make the best weapon, or I want to make the best of these things that help other professions make their quality better, make the skill level go up and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. It makes this even deeper than I thought, because professions have their own kinds of slots. So this is pretty neat. Okay, so you also gain these stats passively alongside your gear. I thought it was going to be a part of your gear, much how things like crit and haste work, but you're able to upgrade these stats through specialization. Gear will be a big source of these stats. Certain choices within your profession specialization will also allow you to gain some of these profession stats. There will likely be other sources like enchants, consumables, and so on. It's all familiar to me. Is there a deterministic way to gain inspiration, or is it RNG based on crafting? Being inspired is RNG based on your inspiration stat. More inspiration equals higher chance that it occurs, similar to more crits. But as mentioned above, there are lots of ways to opt into gaining the inspiration stats if you want it. So part of me doesn't care enough for inspiration. I mean, inspiration, I guess, will allow you to make the highest, again, you're going to be able to make the highest quality item sooner. Maybe. Sooner, maybe. So if I spec'd hard into inspiration and I learned a craft, and normally I would get it, I would craft it at a quality level of 1, but there's a chance it might be a quality level of 5. Okay, that's cool. Or I can be like, I'm cool with having a guaranteed chance of quality level 3, because I don't want to take those chances. I guess going the inspiration route is for people that want to try to make that big money, because it's like, dude, I can make the best thing now, and you don't have to wait for it. You don't have to wait for the rabble to get it up because I put all this shit into it and I can make it now. Go me. Sooner TSM. Okay, what's the benefit to crafting a lower item level at a higher quality? Are there going to be times where this would be a better system than just crafting at a higher item level, or is the intended use to use the higher quality craft to gain more proficiency? In general, I wanted to note that optional reagents can raise or lower difficulty depending on their effect on the recipe. For example, I mentioned above would be if we made an optional reagent like the Novice Crafter's Mark. Okay, then it would make it easier. Okay, that's all that was. What else? Okay, this is from yesterday. Okay, are these effects similar in nature to the new ones we've seen in 9.2, where you can add combat effects to gear? Oh, they're talking about the optional reagents. Philosophically, we like how optional reagents give lots of different ways to customize crafted gear. We'll be trying out various types of optional reagents to see how they feel, so nothing set in stone yet, but I will say we like the way the optional 9.2 optional reagents let you do something a little more custom with your gear than just set their stats or modify item level. What's up, Kaka? Okay, inspiration. Profession stats are not a part of regular gear, but exist on profession gear and in other areas of the profession system. To clarify further, we've been thinking of your profession skill as your profession primary stat and these other stats, such as inspiration, as your secondary stats. That sort of makes sense to me. Any possibility of increasing the number of professions? It was no. I'll skip that part. Are there any changes to how the DMF crafting quests will work? I can see these as being potentially interesting specialization options in the system, or will these remain simple +5 base skill points? We're definitely looking at older sources of skill points, and other profession interactions to figure out how we might want to update them in Dragonflight. The main focus is definitely on Dragonflight professions, which is a letdown, but something like updating the DMF quest could go very well with the overall update. Huge focus on group content, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is a tricky needle to thread. This is the whole group content thing. It's a tricky needle to thread as we want to reward players for doing group content. Instances are a major part of the game, and professions are meant to span pretty much every part of the game. We also recognize that, as you say, professions are a great place for those less interested in group content to find a lot of gameplay. Given that, one of our general goals for professions is that a player can be very successful without needing to set foot in an instance. We recognize that just because you want to craft the dragon head into an epic helmet, you don't necessarily want to be the one to slay that dragon. Those are two very distinct fantasies, and splitting those activities has a great deal of value. This is particularly because we want you to think of yourself first and foremost as a scribe, a leather worker, or any other profession. For some, thank you. He said scribe. I want to make that clear. Scribe. Motherfuckers out there are like inscriptionists or scribers and all that. Inscriptionist, scribe, right? It's canon now. For some players, ideally, their professions should be able to be the most important part of their identity, for where they can choose to spend the majority of their energy. Given that, we're discussing how to achieve both the goals of having group content being rewarding to a player with professions and avoiding it being required to be successful in your profession. You will absolutely be able to max your profession skills and very successfully specialize without setting foot in an instance in Dragonflight. The vast majority of recipes will continue to be acquirable through outside play as well. It is possible, though, that some recipes will come from dungeons or raid. These are great places thematically to acquire some recipes and become a cool reward for doing that content. That said, we're currently thinking that perhaps many, if not all, of these recipes will not be soulbound, so you can ask someone to go into an instance to get them for you or buy them off the auction house. Solved, pretty much. Will guilds have dedicated crafters that don't even raid with them, but are there fulfilling the fantasy and role of crafting awesome gear for their guild? We don't know, but it would certainly be neat. Anyway, I hope that answers your question in a way that's satisfactory. That would be kind of cool. You know, you're just like you're just the guild whore that produces shit. But that'd be kind of neat. I think there's like a little bit more. Okay, this is from 12 hours ago. This is from 9 at night. Last night. So this dude's working. I don't know if I want to give props, because I want to be like, dude, it's way past your work hour. It's like damn near bedtime for some people. Go to bed. Wellness, man. Wellness. Will patterns and recipes from older expansions be part of the work order system? Can players put in that request for a missing transmog item? This is TBD. There's definitely value to giving access to many of the older recipes through crafting orders, but given that this is a brand new system, we're likely going to want to work out the kinks for Dragonflight recipes before expanding too much into the massive amount of old content. Boo. Come on, Sky Golems. Come on, Fellsteel Longblades and Lionheart Blades, or whatever they're called. But I'd love to see like that be expanded. It makes sense in the way that I figured they were going to answer it that way. That's what they always do. Oh, we're going to work on like the new stuff, and then we're going to, go back if things are successful. You sons of bitches. Is there going to be any overhaul to the crafting inventory system? My bags and bank are already very, very full. I'm at the point where I want a crafting bank with a tab for each expansion, just about. This gets worse every expansion where we have expansion-specific things for various new systems. I'm hoping for... if they were to just be like very blunt and be like, all right, you get a second tab for your reagent bank, as in you get another... I forget how many slots. It's kind of a lot, like 80, 90 slots or something. That would help a lot. It would just be something for me to fill up again. Don't get me wrong. But if they were like, oh, we got to do something quick, just do that. Whoop. And like, there you go. I'd be happy with that. Are there any considerations for letting learned recipes be account-wide or otherwise shareable with alts of the same profession? This isn't in our current plans for professions, as we're concentrating on other aspects of the profession system for the moment. Sorry. Without knowing what the recipes are, I don't know. To me, that's kind of jank. I don't think that account-wide recipes should be like, legendary recipes. That seems kind of weird. This level of communication is insane, yada yada yada. Okay, I'm curious, have you guys revisited the plan you guys mentioned during Shadowlands of making the 3 gathering professions into secondary professions? They said no. We haven't discussed the details of gathering as much with you all yet, but I will note that we are doing quite a bit of adept to gathering as well, so we're not currently considering making the gathering professions secondary. That has me hopeful. A little bit hopeful, because it's like, okay, so it's not just going to be like gather. Although, what are they going to do? I'm not sure. And I think that's it. Cool. So it definitely feels like, just from the rhetoric, that professions that Dragonflight is taking the whole notion of expansion feature and throwing it into itself, big revamps on the evergreen systems. And right now there are a lot of legs to this. And it's hard to say if this is going to take us to a much better place. It's definitely different. And that alone, I'm excited for. It's gonna look and feel different. I find that and definitely like more engaging. So I'm excited for it.